Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Regina and this is Our Gifted Garden. In today's video, I'm going to do something I haven't done in a while, since August, and give you guys a full garden tour. But before we get into it, go ahead and click that like button. If you're here, you won't be disappointed. And also, if you're interested in more gardening content, I am growing in North Texas, Zone 8A, but I like to think that, my tips and stuff will be helpful for gardeners wherever. Of course, you can adapt them. But if you're interested in that gardening content, go ahead and click the subscribe button. And, of course, turn on that notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a video. I'm trying to get better and upload once every week. I used to do twice a week, and now it's gotten a little bit more like once every week or every other week, but I'm trying to get better. Y'all, it's the fall, so things have gotten a little crazy with family and kids and stuff. But anyway, now let's get into it. Alright, so if you've seen my garden before, you know I have, gosh, I can never remember, like about 10 raised beds. Most of them are 4x8. I have one that's 4x12, one that's 5x8. Don't do that. I wouldn't recommend it because it's too wide, so it's hard to reach to the middle. And then I have one keyhole bed behind me that's essentially 12x12 all the way around like a square, and then a keyhole section cut out of it. And that is in my suburban backyard. Like I said, I'm in North Texas. I'm actually just south of Dallas. And yeah, so a lot of my backyard is devoted to gardening, and I grow lots of food here for my family. In fact, I was just looking, and I want to say nearly every single day we eat something from the garden. So summer or winter, I cook something that includes something from the garden. Maybe it's an herb, a dried herb, maybe it's tomatoes, green beans, peppers, something from the garden goes in pretty much everything, every dinner or meal that I cook. So it has become something that is really, really helpful for us in helping to minimize our grocery budget, but also it's something that I just really enjoy doing, and providing fresh, delicious food for my family is just, really fun. So I don't know why I was talking so much about that, but I just have a feeling there'll be new people watching this, I guess. But we're gonna get into the tour. I'm gonna go more handheld on the tour so that I can show you guys everything up close. I've been getting better at holding the camera steady with my little camera holder thing. But even though it is almost November, it's October 25th, it is perfect weather for my garden, y'all. It's so nice to be outside and to not be like a million degrees. My peppers have exploded in production since the temperatures have taken a dive, because we had such a hot summer that even the peppers, although the plants did fine, they weren't producing as much as I would have wanted. My tomatoes, my Indeterminate Tomatoes, have started producing again. My second batch of Determinate Tomatoes are full of tomatoes. They haven't ripened yet, but as long as we don't get a freeze anytime soon, then they'll be ripened, and I'll get a whole second batch of Romas and early dolls. So I'm very excited about those. And my green beans are finally producing. They didn't really produce all summer because it was just too hot. So the green beans I planted on the fence, they are growing now and producing for me. And I also planted some more where I had cucumber. So I'm going to show you guys all of that, show you what is being produced. I may harvest a few things as I go. It depends. I have a little bit under an hour. I have about 45 minutes before I have to leave the house and go pick up my kids from orchestra. So I'm using this window of time to get this video recorded. All right, so now for real this time, let's get into it. So just so you guys know, I always like to start my garden tours. Can you hear the garbage truck running? I always like to start my garden tours on the south side of my yard, and I try to grow things such that the shorter things are on the south side and the tallest things are on the north side, so I'm not creating too many shadows for things to grow. So that's how we're starting. We're going from south to north. So here's the view of my yard from south to north. Lots of grass, lots of things happening. That's what the end of the season looks like. But yeah. So starting here, this is my first bed, and I have struggled with grass in this bed the entire season. It's really hard to get out. But this bed is where I have some of my field peas, southern peas, cow peas, whatever you want to call them. They're not black-eyed peas though, they're in that family. I grew some purple hulls here and some zipper cream peas. So you can kind of see the plants are starting to die back a bit. So I'm actually going to be pulling these plants out, and I'm going to try to plant my fall/winter garden stuff here. Maybe this weekend, maybe this week, as soon as I get to it. But I need to get all of this stuff cleared out. And then as much of this grass pulled out as I can. But I still have some peas in here that are growing. So I'll be harvesting these and then pulling out all these plants. But hopefully using the mycorrhizae, you know what I'm talking about. The stuff you put in to help them fix nitrogen in the soil, the legumes. Hopefully that'll help with the brassicas and things I'm planning to put in this bed, because the soil won't be depleted of nitrogen. Okay, next bed over. Same thing, we also have field peas. Some grass growing in this one, but not nearly as much. But also these peas look a lot better than the other ones, so I'm gonna let these grow until we get a frost, because they're still producing. So let me see if I can move so I'm not creating too much of a shadow. There we go. So this is a 4x8 bed. But see, I have plenty of peas still growing. So I'm just gonna let these go and continue to harvest them. And then I'll clean this bed out, you know, once the weather is cool and once nothing else is growing here. So, one of the difficult things about growing in a warm climate like this is that it's hard to like pull things up that are still growing to make way for winter. I like to grow a lot of food, so I like to use all of the space, but that kind of makes it difficult right now for me to really decide, okay, what to pull up so I can put, like I have fall stuff that I've been growing and it needs to go in the ground, but it's sitting on my picnic table over there and has gotten way too big for the containers it's in, but I haven't planted it anywhere because I haven't wanted to pull anything up that's still producing. So that's why I'm gonna pull up those peas back there and use that bed and then let everything else continue to grow, because so many things did not produce as much as I wanted them to this summer because we had such a hot summer. And so now I'm kind of getting that production that I didn't get before, and I don't want to cut any of that off. So sometimes as a gardener you got to make some tough decisions. So this bed, this is the bed where I had my brassicas last spring and they're still growing. I actually pulled all the leaves and stuff off of these kale plants and these collards, and they have since grown back. But the issue is that I still have Japanese beetles out here. And I sprayed them all down and that did not get rid of them. So I'm gonna pull these plants out. I'm just gonna pull the whole plants because there's just too many of them. Like, I mean, they are legit everywhere. I'd have to get out here and smush all of these. And I don't like bugs like that. So I'm just gonna pull out these plants, because I have some more anyway, and throw them in the trash. And hopefully that'll get rid of a lot of them, because they've laid eggs all in the crevices and stuff. And so I'm just gonna pull them out and get rid of the bugs that way. Or as many of them as possible that way. And then this bed, I might treat it with some of the, like with an organic pesticide, maybe neem oil or something, to help get rid of that, the eggs and stuff in the soil, so I can use this bed. But otherwise, I do have basil growing in here. This one is a volunteer, I believe. And then this is my Thai basil that I have been using. It has bloomed multiple times, and there are tons of bees. I let my basil bloom until I need it, because it still tastes good, and I can kind of trim some of the blooms back on some of the plants, because I have so many basil growing. But the bees love basil blooms. I mean, look at them. They are everywhere. And so having basil all over my garden blooming really helps to keep the bees around. I also here have peanuts. This is a peanut plant. I planted some peanuts that I purchased, that were given to me in Alabama by my aunt, that I got mostly to eat. But I planted a few of them and they grew, and there are peanuts growing in the ground. I've pulled up a little bit and they weren't ready. But that was just a really fun thing to do. So this bed is mostly just the remnants of spring and then some little experiments. But I gotta get these Japanese beetles out of here. Next up, this is, as you probably think, my zinnia bed, right? This was actually my strawberry bed. And the zinnias took over, and I just didn't do anything about it. after the strawberries produced in the spring, here in Texas, you can keep them alive, keeping them watered, and then they can come back. But we had such a brutal summer, I was just like, you know what, I don't want to deal with them. And so I just let the zinnias grow. And so the zinnias grew, and then they dropped seeds, and they grew again. And I just have a whole zinnia like farm out here. And it's been kind of cool. I've seen a couple of hummingbirds. I have seen lots of monarch butterflies because they migrate through Texas on their way to Mexico. And tons of bees as well. So I've just let them add beauty to the area. Sometimes I'll cut some and take them into the house. But that's just kind of what's been happening here. This bed has just been a bed for the pollinators after the strawberries kind of finish their first round of production. And then I also have basil. I have basil growing everywhere because it volunteers. And so I've just been letting it grow unless it was in the way of something else. So this is either a lemon or a lime basil. I'm not sure which one because I had herbs growing in this bed last year. Next up on this tour is my tomato bed. Y'all, look at this jungle of tomatoes. So as you can see, I staked my tomatoes. These are my indeterminate ones. I double stemmed them to grow up these stakes, and then they just kind of kept growing because we have a long season and grew kind of wild. But now they are producing again. I'm harvesting tons of, I have mostly cherry type tomatoes, smaller tomato varieties growing here, but I've been harvesting so many of them as of late. Now, if you look at the tops, you see that? See those? That is tomato hornworm damage. When you see your tomato plants and they look like that, like they've been stripped bare in certain areas, that's what it is. So that means you need to come out here and look for hornworms. They're hard to spot because they are green and they blend in very well with the plant. But I've been able to spot them and remove them. My husband or me. I've like psyched myself up and put on gloves and removed them before, but they still creep me out. But my husband can remove like 5 of them in like 5 seconds because they don't bother him at all. But if you can't find them, then come out with a black light at night and they will glow. Shine it on them. I have a black light flashlight specifically for that purpose. And you have to remove them or they will eat your plants. Like, look at this. So we've removed about 11 in the last 2 weeks. I've never had this many hornworms. I usually get like 1 or 2 or none. And for some reason, I guess whatever moth it is that they turn into, it laid a bunch of eggs on my tomato plants. But they're still going, and I'm just going to let these guys grow until it freezes. So look, as you can see, I've got tomatoes in here I could harvest. Yeah, they're all over. And so that's been really, really fun. Okay, look, here we go. Here's a nice orange tomato. I think it's a Chef's Choice orange. We had rain yesterday, like all day. So this tomato has split a bit. So I'm going to get this in the house so that we can eat it before insects and stuff get into it. But that is beautiful. It'll turn all the way orange once it ripens, but because of the rain, it's split. So this bed, this is my Determinate tomato bed. I started a second round of tomatoes indoors and brought them out here, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago. I'll show you guys an image of what it looked like. Actually, I have a video of me planting these out, and now they are all over. I did not trellis them at all. I was going to do Florida weave like I did with my summer ones, and I just didn't. Y'all, I guess busyness plus like laziness and just not wanting to get out here because I had other things to do. So they are growing everywhere. But you know what? They will still produce tomatoes because look. So these are Romas right here. They're mostly Romas out here, but I did one early doll and one, I think I did a terracotta. So I have a few different varieties of tomato, and they're all starting to set fruit. So I'm really excited. I'm just going to let them go. And yeah. And once they produce, that'll be awesome. I'll have another round where I can make more paste and also maybe freeze more of them to use in chilies and soups throughout the winter. And I've also used frozen tomatoes, thawed frozen tomatoes to make salsa as well, and it's worked really well. So remember, if you can't use them right away, you can freeze them. I cut them into like quarters and then put them in a freezer bag, and you can make sauce with them later or salsa or whatever. But yay for a second round of Determinates. First year I've done that. Okay, so next area, just to orient you, this is the bed with the brassicas and the wild basil and the Japanese beetles. Here, there is my indeterminate tomato bed, and then right here is my determinate tomato bed that we just saw. Just want to show you guys another angle. I have a lot of zinnias growing out of this bed as well, and they just kind of fall over, because actually some of these are growing out of this bed too. Can you tell how much I love zinnias? But they reseed on their own throughout the season, and they're just beautiful. So I just enjoy having them around. But also here, I'm along my fence. The sun is, it's about 5 in the evening, and so the sun is kind of shining behind me, so I'm trying to avoid shadows. But here are some of the green beans I grew along my fence. And so now they are finally producing. So let me show you guys. We had green beans from this garden yesterday for dinner, but here's some green beans. I'm gonna come out and maybe do a harvest tomorrow, because those can get just a teeny bit bigger. But yeah, I have some Triumph Violetto that are growing as well. So yeah, I'm getting green beans now, very excited. So I'm hoping we don't get a freeze soon, so I can get these for a little while longer. My shadow, there we go. So now, here we have my pepper bed. Pepper bed is one of my favorites because it just never disappoints. I just harvested peppers the other day. I can harvest peppers every day if I want. But here, these are Purple Beauty. Talk about beautiful. Now these are kind of small. They turn purple early, so this will actually get bigger. So I'm going to let it stay on the plant since I don't have a whole bunch of pests that have been going after my peppers. We had that storm yesterday, so I do have some broken branches in here. But in general, since I tied up the plants, they've been doing well. But I just have, they've just been producing, giving me all the peppers. Look at that. Peppers everywhere, y'all. So this has been a lot of fun. And then here, you've seen, I have a pepper video where I did a pepper harvest. So definitely check that out if you want to see more. But I grow lots of varieties of peppers, mostly sweet, because those are the ones I find the most useful. So if you look in here, these are the Marconi. Such a productive variety. They grow so many peppers and they're sweet and delicious. But lots of peppers. Check out that video to see all that I'm growing. But here's another one of my fence green bean situations. I do have a video on this as well. Y'all, I feel like I'm just promoting all my videos, but I have a video on this as well, how I set this up and built this raised bed along my fence, and then created this trellis with string and wire. And this one I have even more green beans growing. Check them out, y'all. So fun. I love harvesting green beans. It just, I don't know. Look at that. Really, really fun. Hope I'm not moving this camera too much. Okay, so now here is the arch trellis. This is made out of 2 cattle panels tied together in the middle with zip ties. Sorry, the sun is bright. Let me move sides. There. Secured with zip ties in the middle, 2 8-foot cattle panels, because the 16-foot was not going to fit in my car. But this actually worked out great. And so here is where I had cucumbers all summer. If you look at my other videos, you'll see the cucumbers covering this trellis. And I grew tons of like Armenian cucumbers, and they grew so well. But I was like, okay, I've had enough of the cucumbers, and I want some more green beans. Because green beans are something that we eat a lot, and I just didn't grow enough this summer. And so I planted green beans here. Here's some of the plants. And then here on this side, this is a different variety over here, and they have grown much better. Look what I got here. I have some green beans already growing, and I planted these not that long ago. So very excited. Yard-long beans here, and so they just haven't grown quite as fast, but once they get going, they get going. And these as well are yard-long beans. So that's what I have growing here on this trellis. And as long as I get like another month or so with no freeze, then I should get a really good crop of green beans. Now also in this bed, my pepper bed, I have my eggplant. So, y'all, my garden is straight up just jungle. But look at this eggplant. This is growing out of this pepper bed right here. Let me show you. But look how big it is. It's just out into the aisle. It's everywhere. But this is a Rosita eggplant. And I've got so many eggplant in here. Look at this. There's one there. Look at this beauty. That is a beautiful eggplant. And this eggplant is just like a sweet, it's delicious. Here's another small one. And then here are some hiding in here. Look at that, y'all. They are sweet, they're delicious. I didn't think I liked eggplant until I grew eggplant. And now I know that eggplant doesn't have to taste like earthy, like it tastes like dirt to me. And these do not. They are delicious. I think I do have some aphids here, but the season's almost over, so I'll be able to pull this plant out, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm just not gonna bother with those aphids. I'll hope some ladybugs show up, and if they don't, that's fine, because I'm gonna pull these plants out. But Rosita eggplant, and then this is fairy tale eggplant. They are beautiful. You harvest these when they're pretty small, and they have grown plenty for me as well. So it has just been really fun. This has been my first year growing eggplant, and now I know it's something I can grow and something that I love. My husband is okay with it. My kids are on the fence, but I don't care. I'm growing it, and it's delicious. Okay, next up, I'm going to show you guys, I do have containers out here too. This one has some herbs growing in it. This is sage, and I also have rosemary in here, and thyme. All of these I just grew from seed this season. Started seeds indoors with my spring, summer plants, and they're doing great. Hopefully the rosemary and thyme survive all winter, because I grew some thyme last year in that raised bed over there, and it's still doing great. And my sage, though, it died when it had a deep freeze, so I don't know if it'll survive the winter. But I don't use sage all that much, to be honest. I use it at Thanksgiving. That's about it. You'll also notice, like, here are a few other containers. Look at all these tomatoes, y'all. I need to harvest. Oh my God. So delicious. This one has some basil in it. So yeah, containers all over. Here, I have a nectarine, my pair of nectarine trees. Hopefully next year I get a ton of nectarines. These are blueberry plants. This one is a powder blue. It has grown a lot this year. And so is this one. I got a few berries from these this year, so hopefully next year I'll get a ton, because they're much bigger now. Blueberries, they develop their fruiting buds where the leaves are, so it is really important that blueberry plants keep their leaves all season. You don't want them to get sick and drop a bunch of leaves, because then they won't develop fruiting buds for the following season. So with all of this new growth, I'm expecting a lot of blueberries. I mean, this plant is up to my chest. That's how tall it is. Oh no! This. It's knocked over by this thorn. That's a ground cherry plant. I'm gonna have to clean all those up because they will sprout new plants. But this was a ground cherry plant. I grew in a container. And then it died because it just got so hot and I couldn't keep it watered. And then it grew another plant from the seeds it dropped, so I let it grow. And now it looks like it's dying again. This is another blueberry plant. I believe this one is like a premier. Getting lots of growth, so I'm expecting lots of fruiting buds and therefore lots of fruit. Another ground cherry plant back here that reseeded itself after it died. So I've been eating these. Here, more blueberries. I grow my blueberries in containers because they require acidic soil, and that is the best way to do it. I'm actually probably going to fertilize these and hit them with the soil acidifier very soon, just to make sure they're set for winter. And here, another blueberry. This one I believe is a Titan, and it has grown like crazy too. Okay, so my last raised bed on this edge before I get to the keyhole bed is okra. The okra is taller than me. Let's see if I can show you guys. Okay. Here's me. I am 5'5", and you can see the okra standing up behind me, and it's still growing. Some of it has fallen over a bit, especially with the winds last night, but it is still growing. It's still producing. I need to get out here and harvest it. It's still at the point where I need to harvest okra at least every other day. Every day is probably better, but so that I am not letting it get too big so it gets woody. So there's the okra. Here's one of my green bean beds. My yard-long beans did not survive the summer, oddly enough. But I planted like some marigolds and basil also alongside them because I had extra plants. And look at this, look at these marigolds. Like this cool weather, they are blooming like crazy and they are beautiful. And then I also have this basil here. I just tossed all kinds of stuff in here and it just grew. Okay, these were tomatillos. Y'all, I struggled. I put these in containers because last year I grew them in a raised bed and the tomatillos and ground cherries took up a whole raised bed. And I didn't want to have a whole raised bed for tomatillos and ground cherries. And so I tried them in containers, but I could not keep these containers wet enough. I just could not water them enough to keep them viable, and I finally just gave up. And so next year I'm going to just find space for them in a raised bed and suck it up because I'm sad I don't have any tomatillos this year. So no salsa verde for me. I'll just make some out of green tomatoes though at the end of season. So now we're at the keyhole bed that I like to call my perennial bed because it contains fruit trees. Look how big those are. Y'all, they were sticks. They were sticks when I planted them in December, January, February. And look at them now. And blackberries that are out of control because I have not been pruning them. Y'all, life happens. That doesn't mean you have to stop gardening. Sometimes things get kind of out of control. You get busy, you're doing other things. I try not to beat myself up about it. So I really wanted to show you guys this tour because this is probably the most wild my garden has looked, and it's just because of the season. Like, I homeschool my 3 children, and this year so far has been pretty busy for us. We joined a homeschool group, which has been great, but it does take more, we're out of the house more and we're doing more things. And also my kids started an orchestra program this year as well. That's also taking time. So it's just one of those things that sometimes there are seasons where you're just a little bit busy and you can't keep up with everything perfectly. I try to get out here and harvest everything I can harvest, take care of what I can, and what I can't take care of, it's like, oh well. I like to give myself grace, but my garden is still productive because I did the work early on, so there's still plenty of things growing, and I'll make sure that things continue to grow, but sometimes things just get out of hand, and that's okay. So for those who need to hear it, it's okay. Continue to garden, continue to work your garden as you can. You'll make time for things, and when you don't make time for them or you can't make time for them, that's okay too. So, anyways, back to this crazy mess. So, in this bed, 2 weeks ago, I published a video where I planted this garlic, and that was actually when I planted it. I published it maybe like the day after I planted it. And look at it, y'all. It is already growing. This is what garlic looks like when it starts to grow. It looks kind of like grass. And so much of the garlic has already sprouted. So I am excited about it. And then the rest of the bulbs I planted over by my tomato bed, but I legit just got to them like a few days ago, so they haven't sprouted yet. Now that is a purple basil plant. So I'm gonna get rid of that because of this guy. See, your garden wants to grow. It really does. Plants want to grow. They want to spread their seeds. So, kept unkempt, I bet I'd have a whole new garden next year without planting a thing. Pull out weeds. And grass. That is not garlic. Okay, other things going on in this bed. So, these are apple trees. This one, I believe, is a Fuji apple tree. And this one is Granny Smith. And now here, I'm going to do a video just on these trees, but this is a plum tree. It's like 10 feet tall. And this is also a plum tree. I have 2 of each. I have 2 plums because I got pollinator varieties that'll pollinate each other. when needed, but that are also good for my area. And so then I have 2 peach trees, and then on the end 2 cherry trees. And this is their first year in the ground, so next year I should get fruit off of these. So I'm crazy excited. I'm gonna make sure I do everything I need to do, spraying dormant oil and spray and things like that, to hopefully get some fruit. Also, I have a purple basil plant here. As you can see, it's kind of going crazy. I have some shiso that doesn't seem to like the cold weather. I have sweet basil. Basil's everywhere. These are my muscadines over here in these containers. They are doing great. I got some fruit this year off of this plant on the right. This one didn't really produce, maybe 1 or 2 fruits, so hopefully next year I'll get more. Yeah, so really excited about that. They were so good, y'all. These seeded grapes taste better than any seedless grape you buy at the store. They're just so good. Here we have more basil. This is Thai basil in here. I think it is, or cinnamon. Nope, definitely Thai basil. Thai basil is like one of my favorites. I love making Thai food and stir fry, things like that, and the Thai basil is just perfection. So Thai basil, I have a couple pepper plants hiding in there too. You can see them better from the other side. These are my blackberries, but let me show you guys another view. These are my blackberries. I should have pruned them. I built a trellis for them, and look, they are just growing everywhere. They're Primark Freedom, so they're thornless, semi-erect variety, so they do need a trellis. And I have raspberries in there too, and they're getting drowned out by the blackberries. But I have not pruned them. But they are primocane fruiting, so I do have fruit forming. But had I pruned them a little better, I'd have more fruit forming this fall. So I might just get out here this weekend and just do some hacking, because they should not be this big, because they can't maintain themselves this long, or at least not on a trellis. So that is what's happening. It's 4 plants I planted, and blackberries love to grow and spread, so that's what's happening here. I also have a vining field pea plant, because I grew field peas in this bed last year, and I had like 1 or 2 plants sprout up. My raspberry plants did not like the heat, and they're being murdered by the blackberries, so I don't know if they're going to survive, but that's okay. I didn't realize how much space these blackberry plants would eventually take up, and so it is what it is. I like the blackberries better anyway. Yeah. And then here is a pepper plant that I didn't tie up, and yeah, this is an orangey sweet, delicious small sweet peppers that I just put. I had extra plants, y'all, and it's hard for me to throw them away, and so I just planted them. It's like I did a lot of work growing all these things from seed, and so I kept them, and sometimes I put them in places where they didn't quite fit, and that's how this basil ended up out here too. But here's the inside. I'm coming from the inside keyhole part of this bed. Okay. And then here's the other side of this bed. Y'all, it's kind of a mess. I have some stuff out here that I need to clean up. But yeah, these are the 2 cherry trees, and then the peach trees behind them, and the plum trees. So I'm crazy excited about next year. And this little pot here was just sitting on the side when my husband dumped it in there so he could cut the grass. That's why it's kind of crazy. And I also have a gooseberry plant right here in this container. You see that? I haven't gotten fruit from it yet, but hopefully soon. Hopefully next season. And lastly are these 2 mulberry trees that they don't deserve me. I don't deserve them, because I was supposed to plant them this summer and I just haven't done it. And my goal, I was going to build a little raised bed here, which I didn't do. So I think I'm just going to dig a hole and plant them right here in the ground. I don't know why I need to dig a raised bed anyway. And pull them up just a little bit from the fence. My only issue is, will I be able to walk through here? I guess if I prune the blackberries, I will. And just plant them right here. And maybe inward a little bit, because I don't want mulberries to fall over the fence and attract like vermin. But yeah, These are dwarf mulberries, but as you can see, they're 6 feet tall. There's nothing dwarf about them, but I've been treating them poorly. So I'm gonna get these guys planted soon. I'm sorry, babies. And the last thing to see on this tour are my beautiful oregano and peppermint plants that I need to prune back a bit. So I've had these now for, I guess, a year and a half. I planted them back in spring of 2021 in these containers, planted from seed, very proud, and they survived the winter. They of course kind of went dormant. Well, at least the peppermint did. I thought it was dead, but came back. The oregano looks great. In these containers, they survived. We got down to maybe the 20s this past winter, and they did perfectly great. So I love them. Now I make mint and lavender tea. I have lavender over in that bed over there. And of course they are very nice for cooking. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I hope that you found the content helpful. I hope you enjoyed getting this tour of my garden. Of course, if you want to see how it's grown, you know, since April, I have a garden tour video for every month except September. So you could see how things have changed over the months. I also have a video about my trees back there. I just planted those in this bed over the winter. So essentially all of that growth is from this season. So if you want to see how that went, I have lots of things, or how those look back in April. I have lots of other videos on my channel that you can definitely learn how to do all kinds of gardening things, and I will continue to catalog it for you guys. But thank you for watching, and go ahead and click that like button if you haven't done so already. That is a great way to support the channel. It's free and it's very helpful to me. It gets my video out to more gardeners. And of course, subscribe to the channel if this looks like content that you're going to want to see in the future. And even if it's not, just subscribe anyway. And of course, share this video with other gardeners that you know who you think would benefit from this content. Until we meet again, have a great one. Bye.